The Last of Us 2 Remaster comes at an interesting time, a bit over 3 years after its initial launch, but quite a bit into the new generation of consoles. I got a chance to play it for more than a week at this point thanks to a review code that Sony kindly sent over, and today I'm gonna try to answer the question if it is indeed worth it. Also, if you never got a chance to buy and jump into the game, I'm doing a giveaway for the remaster right now on my Discord server. I'm doing giveaways there actually every month, plus it's a nice way to catch up, so totally check out the links down below if you want to join up. That being said, buying the remaster will set you back about $49.99 right now if you don't already own the base game. However, if you do and already have the original part 2, then it's only going to cost $10 for the full upgrade. And what you're getting here is quite substantial, so that includes PS5 native enhancements. You also get graphical improvements, as we're gonna check them in just a bit, new guitar mode, new things for the photo mode, lost levels, and by far the most significant, the no return mode. So this is the one I want to focus on first because this is the main attraction, it's the biggest reason to even jump in the remaster, and I will say this is Last of Us 2 at its finest. You have a full-on roguelite structure to apply all the combat tactics that you have mastered from the base game, go through randomized encounters, collect limited resources, upgrade your character, eventually all culminating in a very dangerous yet very thrilling boss fight. I will say that I've been playing for a week at this point and I'm constantly finding new ways to enjoy it. And the biggest contributor to that is the fact that you have access to more than just the two main protagonists. So it's not just Ellie and Abby that you get to control in this game mode, but up to 10 characters, the main ones also featured in the main story of part 2. And yes, this absolutely includes characters like Joel, Abby, even Lev and Jesse, so both on the side of the Fireflies as well as of the Wolves. And it's not just this, but they also come with their own different upgrades and starting weapons. Obviously, some of them can be very strong outright, but there might be some drawbacks and negative traits if you pick certain characters. And there's also an element of strategy here because on your way through these levels, you kind of have to decide which ones you pick and which ones you want to defeat depending on the drops you have over there. Maybe there's a skill branch that you really want because there's a specific build you want to go for. So this can be either full on stealthy, always go unnoticed and focus on being as silent as possible. You can also go in full on guns blazing and even like very up close and personal, full-on melee tank that also completely regenerates its HP with every single hit. So there are many options in here, and again, the game mode has a lot of replayability. Now, this is also very familiar if you ever played God of War Ragnarok, the recent Valhalla update. It's pretty much that, well, with the exception that you kind of have to pay for it. So that's about the only drawback, but I think that the update more than makes up for that with all of the other things that you get on top, like graphical improvements, PS5 upgrades, and all of the other things we're gonna check in just a bit. Oh, and before I forget, another big advantage compared to the main story is that you can fine-tune the level of difficulty, so you can literally make this a full-on nightmare where you have limited resources or maybe even none at all and just bump the enemies to crazy levels. And there's an added level of difficulty that the main story doesn't have, which comes in the form of these mods / modifiers that you can apply several of for each of the levels. So this can be anything from just having a rain of molotovs at random times to enemies leaving down explosives when you take them down, all the way to inversing your controls and many more on top that will progressively unlock as you go through these levels and complete each challenge. In total, I would say that there are at least about 10 hours of completion here, depending how good you are at just beating the game. Like I said, the mode is pretty complex, so there will be some tips and tricks following soon, as well as a comparison between all of these characters that you can unlock, plus cool ways to build them. In the meantime, I do want to focus on some of the other things that might make this whole upgrade worthwhile for you. And the next one is the PS5 support as well as the graphical improvements. Especially the PS5 native support is by far the biggest because it just takes advantage of everything that makes the PS5 great compared to the previous gen consoles. So the first things you're going to notice is just like loading times being extremely fast, less than half of what they were before. So to show you a comparison, previously it would take me about like 50 seconds or so on the PlayStation 4 to fully load in the Seattle Day 1 level. This was not even in like the city area, just the wilderness. but on the PlayStation 5 that was done by the 23rd second mark, so that's less than half of what it used to be. Now on the graphical improvement side, I'm not gonna lie, I did not have my 4K 60 FPS graphics card. It's still in the mail and it's going to arrive sometimes next week, so all the comparisons were only unfortunately made on 1080p, so maybe this is not going to be the most comprehensive guide to how much the graphics have changed, but I can assure you that the difference is much bigger than what YouTube compression makes it seem. So the biggest one that you're going to notice right away is that colors are a lot more vibrant, the overall scenery is a lot more contrasty, and even more so, the shadows are a bit more dark than how they were before. Like if you compare this with the PlayStation 4, like for example in some of these shots, you will see that the PlayStation 4 shots were a bit more washed out. It didn't look bad, it's just that the colors were not as vibrant, and especially the greens were a bit more washed out on these shots. However, on the PlayStation 5, obviously there are some major improvements, and all of that contributes to overall a much more popping kind of image. Now I also made some comparisons with some of the textures. In some places it's a lot more noticeable than others, so in some of these puddles slash terrain shots you will see that generally the textures on the ground are a lot more crisper and there's a bigger contrast in there, which contributes to giving it a more realistic effect. It's not always that noticeable. So for example, on the horse, you will see that we pretty much have the exact same textures. I'm not seeing that much of a difference unless we start zooming very much in. There are, however, instances where the difference in texture quality is much more noticeable, and this is especially true for vehicles and other structures that have paint applied to them. So just to give you an example, this car right here on the PlayStation 4 has a very smooth kind of texture. You can see that the paint on it is almost like it never even went away or never got affected by the rust and the passage of time. However, there's a huge difference by that on the PlayStation 5, which finally shows a lot of the creases and infiltration beneath that level, that surface of paint over there. So obviously this contributes to an overall much more realistic image. Now, I did also test this with some of the construction sites and other signs in the game, but honestly, I did not notice a significant difference, at least in the texture quality. It's just that the overall more contrasty image contributed to text appearing a bit better. But there are plenty in there that you will notice. So for example, in the distant detail and the LODs, they don't just get to load much better on the PlayStation 5, which means you have almost no pop-in compared to the PlayStation 4, but again, you're not going to notice too much of it in actual gameplay. The biggest of them all in actual gameplay is going to come from the increase in vibrancy. Now, on some of the other things added, I'm a bit more torn between, especially on the lost levels. Now, on one side, I will say that I absolutely love this from a gameplay perspective. You get to see levels that Naughty Dog worked on but never implemented in the final product. You also kind of get to see a behind the scenes of how the studio works. Plus, there's developer commentary that you can also toggle on or off. You kind of get to see these levels and even gameplay mechanics that we never get to see in the final product, but you get to playtest here, and usually they are quite fun. Plus, I especially love the sewers part, especially that deleted section was really interesting, and there were some moments in there that I kind of wish they fully added in the actual story of the main game. So just to make it clear, this isn't something that you're going to access in the story. The story doesn't change. It's just something that you get as a separate section in the game's menu that you can then see, but it's not going to be part of the main story. And this is why I'm kind of torn between loving and hating it a little bit. On one side, because I love it just for the fact that we get to see them. On the other side, I hate it because we're literally paying for an unfinished level or series of levels. Yes, maybe some work went behind them, but it's still nonetheless unfinished. Plus, it would have been much better if maybe they did finish them up and implemented them fully in the final product and kind of give you another reason to go through the main story. Besides this, we also have some of the other extras like guitar free play. So this gives you the opportunity to just play various guitars and even like a banjo in there that you can unlock with the points you get. and do so with different characters. So this includes both Joel, also Ellie, and there's another character I forgot the name of. But basically you can choose all of these different settings, and I believe we also had this in The Last of Us 2 on the PlayStation 4 as well. It's just that this version is a lot more advanced and gives you a lot more features. I'm not going to lie, I'm not a singer, I don't really know how to play the guitar, so this goes way beyond my level of comprehension. However, if you are that kind of person who knows music, yeah, this is something that you might enjoy quite a bit. Plus, there are many other additions in there that I did not talk about. There are new things added to the photo mode, which makes it quite worth it, and a few other tidbits in there, but generally these are the biggest additions. So all in all, is the remaster worth it? Well, my opinion is a resounding yes. Even though it does cost $10, it's only $10 and you get this amazing no return mode. It's filled with content and you get to play with all those characters. Plus, all of the other stuff like the PS5 support and the improved graphics are just the icing on the cake. Lost levels and everything, absolutely worth it. Maybe even more so if you manage to get the base game even cheaper than on the PlayStation Store, so lower than $39.99, and then the upgrade is still going to just be $10. In any case, this is it with the video. Again, a lot more content following soon, including tips and tricks and cool ways to build these characters, so totally stick around by leaving a like on this video, subscribing and activating that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.